as everyone's moving towards it, I'm stepping back to put more focus into the business brand. But I'm not going to stop my brand completely because I've got a large following on YouTube and on LinkedIn. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my personal brand and pushing those people to Automation Links, my company. So instead of messaging back and forth in the DMs, messaging back and forth in the comments, I'm not doing that anymore. Automation Links is now starting to do that. And I think if you're going to exit, I tried selling my business 3 years ago, and that was something every buyer was really hung up on, was that I was the face. People were hiring Automation Links for Brad Smith. No one even knew the name. So what we're doing is we're putting more branding into the business now. It's funny because I've been doing personal branding for too long, right? And everyone's finally getting on board, and I'm stepping back and saying, no, if I ever want to sell or even be trusted, you have to have that business brand as well.
Yeah, I think it's important because a lot of owners need revenue, they need sales. That's what people sell in the marketplace. How to increase your revenue. But when you go to exit, if your company is everyone around Brad Smith, it's like, well, what? Wait, who's going to pick up the phone and call this company? They can't remember the name. Brad was tied to that. Like, what happens? And so it is something that you have to think about. It could be a good launching point to help get those sales up there, and then as the revenue goes, slowly starting to pivot away into more of a corporate brand. And people say, well, we don't like corporations, and no one's going to be Gary Vee. But Gary Vee has a huge company, right? And he did that on the
Yeah.
back of a personal brand, but he was very smart in how he pivoted. His offer was to his staff, not to him, unless you're paying a really high premium. And so there are ways to do that, but you do kind of have to be careful about it. So you're going more toward the corporate brand. That's interesting. I didn't know that before we started to hit record. So, what made you? Was it go
Yeah.
trying to sell the business that made you go that path, or did you see a market trend, or what made you go that way? Because trust is what everyone says, and so you're saying, okay, I want to go to Automation Links is my company. So, what made you make that switch?
About a year and a half ago is when I really started diving into ChatGPT and trying to show up for ChatGPT. And I started realizing that people were searching for services, not for my name. So when I was trying to get my name ranked on ChatGPT, I'm like, no one knows me yet. No one cares. So I need to start putting focus towards these service offerings that we have. And that's when I started realizing that, hey, people are just reaching out to me and they are not calling my team. So everything's relying on me at the end of the day. So I said, we have to make a pivot. I'm seeing more and more business brands starting to work. And I'll explain that in a minute because of these new searches, these new ways people search, and the new way businesses are ranked. So I think there's two differences on the personal brand. There's an entertainer and an educator. Entertainer is going to get thousands and millions of views, right? But that doesn't necessarily bring in the customers. People remember, there's people online that dance on TikTok or that post on X, and they only post to try to go viral. They call it shit posting, right? Or you've got the educator, and the educator is the one that's bringing in the actual business. You're doing this right now with your podcast. You're educating an audience. So now they're going to see Ryan's educating, but I need to know that I'm not going to be working with Ryan. I'm not going to be working with Brad, that I'm going to actually go around them because they're speaking and educating to go reach out to their business and their brand. So instead of saying, I'm going to go work with Brad, I just know Brad is the educator. I have to go work with his company. And that goes along with your Gary Vee example. I know I would never, Gary Vee wouldn't help me with my marketing. I know I would have to go to his company. And it's the way he talks and positions it. And that's where I'm making that change. And I think a lot of people that don't want to get on camera, maybe don't want to have a personal brand, I think they go that route as well.